Experience is always better in a group. The Christian experience doubly so. We're just a group of gamers that love to talk about life, God, and video games in no particular order. So whether you're a newbie or a grizzled ancient like us, we want to help each other roll the level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roll the Level, where we are going to have a conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order. My name is Dame, and welcome to the show. I've got my good friends with me, as always, and I love talking with them. Matt and Sarah. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, buddy. I'm half caffeinated, so that's exciting.
Only half.
Only half. I haven't had a chance to finish it. Well, I'm still drinking it.
Okay.
So it's good, but outside that, doing very well. I started into Division early access yesterday, so that was exciting.
So which means you're pretty much in the dark zone already, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, no. Actually, in all fairness, I'm taking my time. I'm really enjoying it. Division's one of those very few games. I was talking to Sarah about this last night, where I like to collect all of the things.
Oh wow,
that's a rarity.
Yeah, I know it's very rare for me, but it's cool. I like the environments and just the exploration of that game. And there's a lot of cool little nooks and crannies in the Division 2 and in the original Division as well. So that's been really fun. So I'm slowly progressing through the game.
Sweet.
So it's good. It's good.
And Sarah, how about you? How are you today?
I'm sad.
You're sad.
I lost my favorite hair elastic, and I broke my tea bag inside of my tea, so I'm drinking tea leaves. So it's very sad.
Oh my word.
Oh my goodness.
It was a very, very thin tea bag, I guess, and I ripped it. And
Okay.
that's my morning so far. It's going to get better from here, right?
Absolutely.
It is because we're going to have a great conversation today, and that's going to change everything.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to un-tea leaf your tea.
It's true. Yeah, that we can't help you with. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I understand that feeling. That's an awful... I hate when that happens.
Well, I mean, the only difference between a torn tea bag and a not torn one is that you get the texture of grass as well as the taste of
exactly
grass.
what I wanted.
Hey now.
So it's good. It's good. So,
well, I'm somewhere in between you guys because I'm partially caffeinated as well. It was a rough night for me last night. I don't know why. I just could not sleep. But maybe I was just excited about us recording this morning.
It's probably it. I would agree.
It probably is. But in our topic for today, we're going to talk a little bit about ketchup mechanics, not the mechanics of boiled and stewed tomatoes.
Applying ketchup to French fries.
Yeah, no. I have weird tomato rules, and ketchup does not make it past the threshold of what I will endure with tomatoes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that sometime.
I didn't even know that. How have we been friends this long?
I'm
gonna
go ahead
and
know this.
I'm going to go ahead and talk about it here because I'm just going to get this out of the way because everybody. Well, maybe you don't care. But,
I care.
All right. So here we go.
My heart is sad right now that I didn't know this about you.
I have a weird relationship with tomatoes. Okay. I will eat a BLT, but I don't like tomato in a hamburger. I do not like tomato in a garden salad, but I will eat it in a caprese salad. I don't like ketchup, but I do like barbecue sauce. Won't eat red sauce. Most red sauces on pasta, but I will have pizza. I don't like chili, but I'll eat tomato soup. I have weird food rules, and I know that
it's hard to remember.
I can't even process this right now. I'm gonna need a minute. So you guys keep going.
All right. So not that this episode is about me as a fussy eater. I'm okay, and I will say this. Here's the turnaround. Here's the connecting point here. I'm trying to improve.
Okay. I like it.
Something.
I read something recently that said that your taste buds change every 7 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And not that that's it's a semi-relevant data point. But,
That's good. It's good.
But there, I also recognize, hey, these things do kind of have some benefits to them. So I may as well try, to be better.
Oh, it's funny. I have a rule with food as well, and it's that if I don't like something, I have to try it in 6 months.
Huh. Oh, okay.
And I keep
I
trying
like that.
it. I keep trying it until I like it.
Eventually sticks, or you just
Yeah,
don't
it's
care
true.
anymore.
Like olives. All growing up, could not eat olives to save my life. Like I just could not bring myself to eat an olive. And then when I started adulting, I kept going and kept trying them, and eventually started liking them on pizza.
Okay.
Now, here's the question: green or black?
Oh.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Good answer.
Good.
Yeah. So like when I started, I was like I couldn't do olives, and I just started eating black ones on pizza, and oh my word, it's so good. And I just started eating olives in general, and then I like all of the olives. So I will eat all of them.
All of them.
Exactly. So that's my rule on food is if I don't like it, I have to try it again in 6 months.
That's great.
Now, that being said, there are now very few foods that I just cannot eat. And tea is one of them. I can't drink tea. I keep trying it. I've tried so many types of tea. And I will keep trying it until I find one that I like. But until then, it all tastes like grass as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm having green tea, so it is grass.
Well, here's the deal, buddy. In a couple of months here, we are going to hang out.
Yes, we are. I'm so excited.
And I am going to make you some of the best tea of your life, and you will like it.
All right,
I'm gonna make you. Like it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And if I don't like it, we'll try it again in 6 months. That'll be great.
If you see like pictures pop up of me like waterboarding Matt with tea, like that's what's going on.
What's going on? Yeah,
it's fair. It's true.
We are getting really off topic here.
Wait, there was a topic this morning? Okay, cool.
I mean, this all does kind of follow under the umbrella of a conversation about life, God, and video games.
True.
In no particular
It's
order.
true.
So this is the real life stuff here.
All right.
This last week in Destiny 2, the season of the Drifter just dropped, and I know that I'm the only one that really cares about that. And
I care
so
that you
genuinely and deeply that I have to pretend I care.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I just care for you, so I will care. It's good.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. But one of the things that I appreciated that Bungie did was that, and this is something that I struggled with every other expansion up to this point, or every other content drop, I should say, up to this point within the game, is that it actually came with a series of quests that allowed you to catch up to the base, close to the base power level.
Yeah.
Of the content, which is wonderful, because especially with this last season, like I found myself taking so much time to catch up to
I struggle with that
where
as well.
things were with the Black Armory, that like I'm still even now like unlocking things with that. But anyway, so I appreciated that there was not only the recognition. Let me back up here a second. Okay. Sometimes when there is a disparity between where you are and where you need to be or where you want to be, it can be very, very discouraging. And so having those moments of being able to catch up to speed, or to be able to advance beyond where you are is very, very encouraging. Rather than it being punishing or feeling left behind by like, oh, hey, you didn't stay ahead of the curve, and so now you're kind of in a mess here and can't enjoy the content. Have there been games like that for you guys, whether they were like looter shooters like Destiny or like MMOs or anything like that you guys have experienced?
Well, I know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I have a couple that just come to mind instantly. WoW being one of them for sure. Every time there's an expansion, you get a boost for free, and they do sell the other ones afterwards. But being an RPG player, like back in, I don't want to say the olden days, but back in the day, there was like no catch-up mechanics. You would have your main party, and another party member came along. You're like, that's nice. I have this boosted party. I'm not going to go back for you now.
Yeah, time to grind.
Yeah, exactly. Like grinding was catch-up mechanics. But now you have like, hey, they'll get experience in the background just for watching the battle and stuff like that.
Sit on the sideline and pop.
Yeah, it is.
I'm getting so much XP.
I'm just happy they're getting experience. But recently, Tales of Vesperia came out, and I played that game on Xbox 360, and I loved it. But now you can get on the PlayStation Store like level boosts for free. So I was like, I've played this game before. I know how it goes. I just want to go through it again and have fun. So I bought the level boost, and I put it on my characters, and I'm just going through that game, having an awesome time.
Nice.
And
Nice,
I
man.
don't have to care about nobody's caught up to anybody. We're doing great all together. But I'm so used to having to grind everybody out, so it's just nice to have a fun time with everybody, not having to worry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's
What
cool.
about you, Matt?
Oh man, I mean, there's been a lot of games. WoW would be a big one for sure. I mean, they always, especially in the later expansions, they really work to create. Even, I mean, yes, there's the boost, but then with gearing, when they do big patches, they try to find ways to kind of slide in the upgrades for you to get you caught up. And actually, going back to what you talked about with Destiny, that was my biggest struggles up to this 6-pack drop. Was like when the armory stuff came out, like I was just far enough behind in that I couldn't catch up to do the armory, so I didn't even touch the armory, and it was such a discouragement. I stopped playing at that point, like, and that's when I stopped playing because I really enjoyed it up to then. But there was such a gap there that I really struggled with. But I think I don't know, like over the years, I tend not to do catch up if it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to grind this out, then I'm just like, nah, I'm all right. The one exception to that, and it's funny, I joke about this, but Diablo 3 has a great catch-up mechanic when you're starting a fresh character, and it's called the Necromancer. Like you go like Singularity Mage with that, like Skeletal Mage build, and you're level 70 like in 20 minutes. It's great.
It's either that or you have friends.
Yeah,
that
it's
are
true.
already
Yeah,
level
it's true.
70.
Yeah, or it's like log in on Friday night when all your buddies already grinded out all the Paragon levels, and like, oh yeah, we'll power level you, go make a sandwich, and you come back and you're 70.
Just stay at the beginning of the floor.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah. Just teleport
to us when we say.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any games outside of probably World of Warcraft where I've seen that done a lot. I think Lord of the Rings Online had a few mechanics that helped with that. Then there are other games where I feel like the progression is almost, I don't want to say secondary because it's not, but the challenge of progression isn't as dramatic. I think of games like The Division as an example. Like you can, even if your buddies are level 30 and they're doing endgame, you can get there in like a week or two and it not feel like a grind. So there's that side of the coin too that's interesting. So I don't know. I'm all over the place with that, to be honest with you. I struggle when I hit those grind walls. Unless it's an ARPG, I'm like, I think I'm done.
I love grinding though. I turn on Spotify, listen to a
Really?
podcast. I love it. If I get to a grind spot, I'm like, yes, I could just chillax. It's great.
Oh, not me. I need to be moving constantly. Drives me nuts.
See, I wrestle with that tension of putting in the work. So I'm a little bit, I'm kind of with you a little bit there, Matt, in that, if something is going to require a lot of time, I kind of do that, like that cost benefit analysis in my head of like, okay, how much time is this going to cost me? And do I have the bandwidth, for that thing? That kind of transitions us into an interesting conversation about our faith and our faith journey, because there are moments in our faith journey where there are things that come up, whether they're circumstantial things or whether they are moments where God really kind of opens our eyes to an area of our life where we really need to improve, or that we're kind of lacking a bit. And there's need to improve in those areas. But there's work also that kind of needs to go into that as well. Matt, you and I were having a conversation on Monday night, and just to kind of let you guys, the listeners, know a little bit of kind of what's going on in my world right now. I'm actually getting ready to take a 2-month sabbatical from ministry. And it's not a like I'm burned out or anything like that. It's just a like the church that I work in has kind of a recommendation that every 7 years of service that a pastor should take a sabbatical. That it's a good idea to do that. I agree with that idea. But anyway, so I'm coming up on 8 years of service here, and so anyway, so I'm in the process of preparing for that sabbatical. And one of the things that I had talked about with Matt was, I know that there are some there's some maturity things that I need to work on. There are some disciplines that I really need to get figured out, and that I struggle with, and so Matt and I had been having this conversation about acknowledging where we're at and the things that are needed, and needing to take some time to really like chart out and plan out like what's happening and what's going on, with that. And so I don't know if you guys have ever been in places like that where you have either felt like you've hit a wall in your growth with God, or you have or you've had something identified in you where you're like, oh man, that needs to get handled. So I'm going to kind of throw that back to you guys.
That's fair. Sarah, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Basically, my last year and a bit have been that, where I've been in that space of I hit a wall and needed to stop and focus on. Oh man, a lot of things actually, but focusing on that, just restructuring, refocusing, planning out, figuring out what life looked like and what it needed to be versus what it was. Because I'd just been going so hard and so fast for so long that you kind of leave a wake behind you of just brokenness. In all honesty, so yeah, this last year is like I stepped away from ministry for over a year. Took a breather, and not because of any great moral failing or anything like that. It was
I was just gonna make
just to
that
clarify,
very very clear.
No, it was I had been doing ministry for probably 15 years solid without a break, and it just kind of hit a wall. Going back to what you talked about needing sabbaticals and stuff. Yeah, you do. Because if you don't take them, you end up like me, and I don't recommend that to anybody. But no, this last year for me has been a lot of that, just digging deep and going, okay, what do we need to get rid of? What needs to stay? What's gonna help rebuild and construct a healthy marriage for my wife and I, and a family for our kids. What does that look like, and how does ministry fit into that? What is actually honoring to God versus what we tell ourselves is honoring to God. Right. So there's been a lot of questions, and we've been just processing and working hard through that. And I'm so thankful we have an incredible church that's really come alongside us. That after I left the last church I was at and resigned from there, we started going to this church. I had known the pastor, and I think shared a little bit on this. The pastor, but anyway, we started going to the church, and they've just been incredible. They have just come alongside. They have just been awesome at supporting us and taking care of us, and so it's been really, really good. So that's been kind of my experience over the last year, but it did require me to actually stop and slow down and evaluate, and we don't like doing that in our culture. We don't like to look at our own faults, I think, sometimes, and see where we need to grow.
Yeah, I was going to say there's something that's really important about stepping back and taking inventory, or at least surrounding yourself with people who care enough about you to be able to say, hey, this is the thing that I'm seeing. Where are you at with that?
Yeah. No, it's true. Absolutely true. And that's been my last year, and I'm still in that process. And I hope that's a lifelong process of constantly evaluating and critiquing and going, okay, how do I get better? How do I do this thing better? So yeah, it's important to do that. As a culture, I think we shy away from that because we live in such a hypersensitive, hyper-reactive culture that we don't want to ask those hard questions of ourselves and of others and of each other, right?
Yeah.
I've been listening to this great podcast actually. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Doesn't really matter. But the last episode was on the culture of criticism, and the good and bad and things like that. And it was a really insightful podcast because he was actually interviewing these like crazy powerful business people and the cultures they had kind of developed themselves. And I cannot remember because I'm terrible with details, but the podcast is actually called Work Life with Adam Grant. So this episode I'm listening to is basically interviewing this guy who has this like multi-billion-dollar company, and they have, and this is going to sound so wrong, but it makes so much sense. They have a culture of open criticism. In the office thing. Yeah. It really threw me when they first started talking about it. He's like, and this is like the CEO. This guy's a billionaire. He's one of the richest people in the world. And he's like, when I'm an idiot, I expect people to come up to me and tell me I'm an idiot. Right. He's like, that's the cultural expectation in my office, is that if I screwed up, you come to me and you say you screwed up. And so he started reading emails that people in his company had written to him. And they were scathing emails.
Wow.
But that being said, the motivation behind that in the culture they have is that they want to build each other up. They want to find those weak areas and strengthen one another. So he said on the surface it sounds so harsh and so mean, but he said when you understand that the motivation is to come alongside and to lift up and to help move forward, he said it changes your perspective on what criticism can mean. And I've talked about that before on the show, how we need to, anything that's thrown at us, we need to take it with a grain of salt, and we need to assess it and actually look at it. Not just run to the people we know will console us and make us feel better, but actually look at what's been said and say, okay, is there a grain of truth in this? Yep. And if so, what can I do with that? How can I move forward? How can I develop in that? So, anyway, interesting podcast, ties back to what we're talking about in that, it is so important, but so hard, I think, to actually stop and critique ourselves. But we need to if we're going to move forward.
Absolutely.
I'll get off my box now. Sorry.
You're good, man. You're good. All good stuff. Sarah, what about you?
I think I'm different in the fact that I always feel like I am the one catching up. Like I am kind of new to the whole like studying the Bible and going to church all the time kind of person. And I always feel like I'm striving to know all the answers and like know too much. And that's where I hit a wall because, hey, mentally I don't know enough. And then I get discouraged and like, oh, I'm never going to know enough. So I always feel like I'm the person that I want to be level 80, but I'm stuck at level 40.
Fair.
At least you have a mount.
I do. In the original WoW, I'd be like, yeah, we're all good.
It's so true. So true.
If you could afford it.
That's true.
Oh, truth.
Yeah,
man,
way too
grind.
much. Sorry.
Talk about grind.
But it came to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go for it. Sorry.
So this week I had 2 people come to me asking about a passage in the Bible or something that was said in the sermon we listened to this week. And I felt like, oh, I don't know enough to help you. What if I say the wrong word? So in both directions, I felt like I was bamboozled in a way. I didn't know what to do. So I studied and I got back to them, but I struggle in the area of having to know too much and always wanting to be that level 80 character. But I am learning in a way that hey, how about you just finish the Bible first and not worry about studying something so in depth and having to know all the answers at once. You have to just get a big picture first and then don't worry about helping others right away. Like you can mean the best things, but maybe direct them to somebody that can help them more in the meantime. But yeah, I definitely struggle in that sense. So now I'm trying to I don't feel like I know I struggle in a social aspect. Like I'm not good in that aspect, but I don't feel I'm being pushed in that direction currently. So I feel like I'm just being told to slow down, look at your surroundings, read, and then help somebody in the future.
Well, you know what's really cool about that, and Sarah, I really appreciate that. One of the things I love about having you as part of Roll the Level is that, your experience where you are at right now is so valuable. Sometimes, when you have been in the church for a long time, you really forget about, that, hey, it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay not to know everything.
It bugs me.
Well, let me give you some comfort in this. Okay. So there's a dude, and I promise I'm going to tie this back into a piece of scripture that's really important to move this conversation along. But in the book of Acts, there's a little known, really obscure guy named Paul. That
never heard of him.
He's my bestie.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. That to give you a little context, Paul was one of the he was educated by one of the most popular rabbis in of his day. had an incredible education, had like the pedigree to be a religious, like top religious leader of his day. And Jesus gets a hold of him. And the first thing that he does is not run out and preach. This is a guy that has all of this insight and all of this knowledge of where Israel has come from. And he takes months and months and months and just sits at the apostles' feet and learns from them. Like he just spends time just soaking in who Jesus is and getting to know him, and then allowing everything else, all of that knowledge that he does have, to be soaked in who Jesus is. And so the thing that I really appreciated about that, and that I will always appreciate about that, is that no matter where you are at, like the guys that he was hanging out with were fishermen, and they were tax collectors, and they were the people that didn't cut it in rabbi school. They were the dropouts, they were the flunkies, and he's learning about God from this guy, and Paul is learning from these guys that don't have this educational underpinning, where he has a lifetime of knowledge of where Israel has come from, and all of the scriptures that everything was founded on, and Jesus steps into, and he's sitting there and waiting and listening. And I love that, because then he comes in with passages like Philippians 2, where he talks about having the mind of Christ in our relationships with each other, of like not considering equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, but taking on the very nature of a servant in human likeness, and even being obedient to death. Like that was the attitude of Jesus. And then following that up, he says, therefore, in other words, in light of all of this, dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purposes. In other words, this is a lifelong journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Truth.
I feel like I'm giving a book report on something I haven't finished reading.
Oh man, that was like all of high school for me, so it's fine.
That's all of life for me. So yeah, I mean, but it's good though to recognize, it is really, really good to recognize, hey, you know what? There are some things that I just don't know. And even being in pastoral ministry for over a decade, like, there are still moments where, people will come to me with questions, and I'm like, I got to get back to you on this. Like, I need to take some time to really explore this, and, before I give you something. But let's, we're kind of coming down to the end of the episode here. If you guys could give somebody like some practical steps, like if you are feeling either stuck with where you are with Jesus right now, or you find yourself in a place saying, you know what, I know that I need to grow, or I know that I need to improve. What is the next right step that you would encourage somebody to take?
Absolutely. I think the one step I would, well, I don't know if it's one or not, but the step I would give people is, you need to surround yourself with people that want to see you move forward.
Yeah.
Like you cannot do this thing by yourself. I don't know where we get this idea that we're super Christians and that we're an island and that we can just steamroll everything, right? Like we think of like the greats, like Billy Graham and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, guy had an awesome ministry, but dude was surrounded by so many people.
All the Christians
exactly right. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, we need to absolutely surround ourselves, not just people that are gonna say what we want to hear, but people are gonna tell us what we need to hear.
That's what I was gonna say too. Like find an accountability partner that's patient with you and wants to see you grow, but is not gonna like push you so hard that you're just gonna totally lose interest in the opposite direction. Just somebody that will keep poking you to move in the right direction, but not push too hard.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would echo the same thing. We always say, or we always begin every episode with the statement that experience is better in a group.
Truth.
And the Christian experience doubly so. we need each other. We move faster and farther together. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the church. And when I say the church, I don't just mean my church that I'm serving in. I'm talking like Big C church, like the universal, all of us, who are following after Jesus church. It's a thing that I love. Like surround yourself with people who just want to be more like Jesus. Like I would rather be surrounded by 10 people who want to go and live for Jesus and move forward together than to be surrounded with, tens of thousands of people who are just kind of showing up, right? Like you need people who want to see you grow, who want to grow with you, who are not afraid of the mess, and love you enough and you love them enough to move beyond the mess with them, right? And so if you are and this is something that I know, Matt, you have been a part of. Sarah, I imagine you've been a part of this too, but being a part of some type of small group of whether it's a study group or something like that, where you are not just getting head knowledge or information, but that you are growing together and that you're serving together and you're ministering together and you're leading each other forward. Because that's honestly, like, that's part of this working out your salvation thing. It's a daily thing. And you will never fully understand how you are growing unless you put yourself into those situations with right alongside of people. Not that you're comparing yourself with them or anything like that, but you will often find yourself in a place where people are seeing encouraging things in you and challenging you to grow. True. So I would definitely echo that. If you a listener out there, if you're not connected with a local church, that's really one of the first steps. Find a local church that 100% believes and follows Scripture, that 100% believes and follows Jesus, and wants to see you in a place where you're following Jesus as well. If you're ever in trouble finding that, please reach out to us. We would love to try to get you connected with somebody somewhere, because we all need community. We need each other to move forward in our relationship. Yeah, that's kind of part of being a part of the church. Right. But we would really encourage you to do that. First step, get involved in some type of small group, some group of people that you trust, that you can be open with. You don't feel like you have to posture with, and be open and vulnerable and willing to take critique as well, to move forward. Because guess what? We're all messed up. We all need to work out our salvation with fear and trembling, no matter how far along in the journey or how far outside of the beginner area or even if we're inside the beginner area, we all need that. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions based off of this episode, I know there's a lot of information that we've covered and a lot that we weren't able to cover. But if you have any questions, reach out to us at Roll the Level on Twitter. You can also send us an email at rollthelevel@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitch on Wednesday nights, etc. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Roll the Level.